Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
DC politicians want to enact harmful credit card mandates that could take away your cash back and rewards points. Perks that stretch your budget and make life a little easier. Losing these benefits means less money for your family's everyday essentials like gas and groceries. The perks you rely on could disappear, leaving you with higher costs and fewer options. Tell Congress to guard your card and oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card mandates.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got a great podcast for you. A little bit of a shorter podcast today. We're only going to have two parts, mainly because there's no recap to be had from Saturday because it was supposed to be Game 5 of the ALCS. Unfortunately, the Milwaukee Brewers got swept. This man behind the microphone, who's from the great state of Wisconsin, a little bit sad about that, but what I am happy about is that we're going to have a great chat here in a few minutes with one of our good friends, Curtis Rogers. He does the pre- and post-game hosting for the Seattle Mariners on the radio side over at 710 Seattle Sports. We're going to be talking about the tenor of this Blue Jays versus Seattle Mariners series, what to expect from game number 6, which of these two teams has the best chance of being able to give the Dodgers a good series in the World Series as well. And then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys my picks and analysis for game 6 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, make sure you put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. And how about if we do settle in with our chat with Curtis? He does an incredible job on so many different fronts. Obviously, the Seattle Mariners work that I just laid out, but additionally, I know he's doing some great work with the Seattle Kraken, the Seattle Seahawks. If it's sports being played out there in the Pacific Northwest, he's doing an amazing job of covering it all. You're able to follow him on Instagram along Twitter/X at a kid from Kent altogether. And Curtis, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Greg, thanks for having me on. And boy, people over here in the Northwest, we have got our blood pressure through the roof over the last week or so. Heading into Game 6 on Sunday, it's going to be a crazy environment in Toronto for sure, especially coming off of the insane Game 5, what we saw in that 8th inning comeback. But this is what you live for. This is postseason baseball. This is why we do this. And it's been a blast getting to be along for this ride. And I'm super excited to see what's in store for us once the series flips back to Toronto.
Absolutely, and at the very least, we still have an ALCS going on because the NLCS was wrapped up in 4 games as the LA Dodgers just completely overwhelmed the Brewers. And before we take a look at what we're going to be getting in the ALCS, because it's going to be really exciting, Mariners 1 game away from the World Series, do either the Blue Jays or the Mariners stand much of a chance against the Dodgers? Because this team has just been going through the playoffs like a hot knife through butter, and this just looks like the most dominant team in all of baseball.
Yeah, the Dodgers are a machine. No one has put up a fight against them, and we all thought maybe the Phillies were going to be the team, or even the Brewers. Your Brewers, who had the best record.
That was not the case.
No, that was definitely not the case. The Dodgers are an absolute machine, and you heard Dave Roberts comment on the podium after they awarded the National League pennant, like, we're here to ruin baseball. And it's like, yeah, they're doing a really good job of that, especially for other teams that want to try to win a championship. But when I look at the American League side of things, man, when I look at the tail of the tape for the Mariners or the Blue Jays going up against the Dodgers, both teams are severely lacking in the firepower that the Dodgers have, not just in the lineup, but also in the rotation, especially with how good the Dodgers rotation has looked in the playoffs. I would say the only way or the only place that you can really beat the Dodgers is if you can get to their bullpen. If you can get through their rotation, which I mean is easier said than done with guys like Glasnow and Snell and Ohtani and Yamamoto. I mean, it's just guy after guy, Kershaw even. It is ridiculous the amount of firepower that they have. We're going right now. If you can somehow get to their bullpen, I think that is how you can beat them. Because offensively, I mean, Ohtani's going to do what he's going to do. Freeman's going to do what he's going to do. Betts is going to do what he's going to do. Like, you can't skip any of those guys at any point. The Mariners played the Dodgers in the final 3 games of the regular season. Yes, they had everything wrapped up in terms of the number 2 seed, in terms of the AL West. There was nothing left to play for, but even then they got swept by the Dodgers. So when I look at both the Blue Jays and the Mariners, I think maybe the Mariners might stack up a little bit better than the Blue Jays do, simply because I think their bullpen's a little bit better than the Blue Jays. I think Cal Raleigh can kind of match Ohtani or get close to matching Ohtani swing for swing. But other than that, I mean, it's going to take a miracle, I think, for either Seattle or Toronto to pull off a World Series victory against this Dodgers ball club.
And if Shohei Ohtani is hitting 3 home runs and pitching 6 scoreless innings in the same game, yeah, best of luck there. As Curtis Rogers, who does such an amazing job over at 710 Seattle Sports, he is the pre- and post-game voice of the Mariners. He is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and certainly is going to be an exciting game number 6, as you've got experience versus, shall we say, youth. Trey Savage going up against Logan Gilbert. We saw Gilbert in game number 2 do enough to be able to get the Mariners a win, but obviously that was not the full force Logan Gilbert that we're used to seeing. He was pitching for the 3rd time in 8 days. Now he's back on normal rest for this one. How do you take a look at this matchup? Because both of these guys are high strikeout guys. For Savage, his big issue has been giving up walks. For Logan Gilbert, he has given up the deep ball a little bit on the road, and I think that this is going to be such a fascinating pitching matchup.
Yeah, the Mariners have made a big point in using Logan Gilbert on the road in this postseason. His first start came in that Detroit series at Comerica Park. Did plenty to keep the Mariners in that game. They ended up winning that one 8-3 in game 3 of the ALDS. Didn't go so hot for him in game number 2, but like you said, did enough to get it over to the bullpen after his first time through the order. And also, like you said, he wasn't pitching on normal rest. He had been used a lot up until that point in the series, obviously pitching a couple innings of relief in game number 5. So this is his 4th appearance in the postseason, 4th appearance in the Mariners, I believe, their 11th playoff game so far. So, I mean, you're looking at darn near every other day for Logan Gilbert, it kind of feels like, in this postseason. But you did mention that he is back to normal rest, which I think is going to be a big help for him. It's going to be a big help for this Mariners team, especially if Gilbert can get them 5 or 6 innings. I think that sets you up nicely for at least the finish to game 6. And if you need a game 7, I think that means your bullpen won't be necessarily as taxed as it would be if Gilbert is just going to get through one time through the order. So I think if Gilbert can get through 5-6 innings, I think that's going to set him up nicely for the remainder of what game 6 could be, and possibly even a game 7. Game 7, who knows right now for the Mariners? My guess is it's probably going to be George Kirby in game 7. I think it'll be just kind of everybody at that point. I am interested to see how they use Brian Wu going forward, especially with him coming out of relief in game 5. He pitched 2 innings of relief. That was his first work in about a month. So it remains to be seen what their plan is for him. But I think the Mariners actually are kind of in decent shape considering how games 3 and 4 went, where they had to use a lot of pitching. The off day on Saturday is going to set them up nicely, I think, for game 6 and game 7.
And how surprising was it that Brian Wu did not get the start in game number 5, and instead they went back to Bryce Miller, who, I mean, he has been very good here in the postseason, but Brian Wu was one of the more dominant pitchers in the American League throughout the regular season. You mentioned it coming off of a little bit of an injury, but that was a little bit surprising to me, though obviously worked out for the Mariners getting that win.
Yeah, I think that decision kind of tells me that they are a little bit concerned about the stamina with Brian Wu right now, where they don't know how much that pec is going to impact his ability to get deep into ball games. If you recall, Brian Wu during the regular season was a machine in that he was consistently going 6 innings darn near every start. I think he only had like 2 or 3 starts this season that were below 6 innings, and I don't think he ever had a start this year below 5 innings. So he's just been a workhorse in terms of overall usage. Now, I think if it comes down to it, I would be very tempted to start him in game number 7, especially with the off day Saturday. You probably aren't going to use him during Sunday's game 6, so possibly is available in game 7. I would imagine whoever doesn't start or whoever doesn't pitch in game 6, they're going to be available. I think every starting pitcher is going to be available at that point. You mentioned Bryce Miller. He's been maybe their best starting pitcher in the postseason right now, especially considering how he has made Toronto's offense, get completely neutered here in the championship series. It has been phenomenal to watch Bryce Miller bounce back from a tough regular season and put together a couple of really nice starts here when the Mariners have absolutely needed it the most. So I'll be interested to see what Brian Wu's workload looks like. I don't think he is going to start quite yet. Potentially, maybe the World Series, you could see him start, but I don't know if it's going to be in Game 6 or Game 7.
Yep, and I think that is going to be interesting to watch moving forward as we do have Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how do you just take a look at the dynamic that we've seen in the series where the road teams have dominated? Road teams are 4-1 here in this series, with the lone win coming for the Seattle Mariners in game number 5, and that was courtesy of an Eugenio Suarez grand slam, where that 8th inning was absolutely wild. It looked like the Mariners might be going down 3-2 going back to Toronto, but I find that to be so interesting because I would say Seattle has a really good home field advantage. The Blue Jays have a really good home field advantage, but teams have just not gotten the job done at home in this series.
Yeah, that's been a question we've been asking ourselves as a broadcast crew really throughout this series. Is just like, why is it that it took until game 5 for the home team to win, and not just win, but I mean, they had to scratch and claw and fight all the way to, have a comeback in the 8th inning for that to happen. And I kind of wonder, I wonder if it's the mentality of like us versus them, and we're all we got, we're all we need, and going on the road and having just that kind of mindset of like, all right, it's us versus them, and we're going to go out there and we're going to win, and we're going to put together a performance that's going to shut down the opposing crowd. And it's funny, like you mentioned, Rogers Center has always had this reputation. I think it comes from, the 2 standout moments, or really 3 standout moments in that ballpark's history. Joe Carter, his walk-off home run in the 93 World Series, Jose Bautista's bat flip, and then Edwin Encarnacion's walk-off in the American League wild card game against the Orioles all those years ago. You think of all 3 of those moments and the crowd just absolutely losing their minds and going crazy. And that is an environment that I think a lot of teams are just kind of like, uh-oh, I don't want to go there. And it's funny because up until game 5, not only had the road team only won in this series, but when they met in the 2022 wild card series, the Mariners swept the Blue Jays while being the road team. So it's not just this postseason where the Mariners and Blue Jays have had just tons and tons of road success, but in their previous playoff meeting too, that's when they had an interesting road series win by the Mariners. So yeah, it's hard to explain. We're still trying to figure it out, but definitely obviously something to watch for in game 6 and game 7, especially with the Mariners having the series advantage. Could that potentially lead to them clinching in Toronto? I think it's very much in the realm of possibility, especially considering the vibes of both ball clubs after a really hard-fought game number 5.
Yep, exactly. And I do think that it's going to be really interesting to see what we get in game number 6, because on my side of things, the overs have very much been cashing in this series. Out of the 5 games, 4 of them have gone over the total. Do you think that we might see a little bit of a better performance for both Logan Gilbert and Trey Savage here in game number 6, especially with the fact that these teams had an off day on Saturday to be able to prepare for this big Sunday? Because we have noticed that offense has very much been reigning supreme. Look no further than the 8th inning that we did see in game number 5.
Yeah, I think both pitchers might have a better shot at locking it down just because of the familiarity they have with the opposing lineups, especially when you're facing a team as recently as you face them. It's not a normal situation you find yourself in as a starting pitcher during the regular season, because when you face a team, you usually don't see them again for at least a couple of weeks. But here, you're seeing the team that you've just pitched 3-4 days ago. I think it benefits maybe Logan Gilbert a little bit more than Trey Savage, just simply because Gilbert has more just experience in the big leagues than Savage does. I think Savage is going to have, an interesting go of it, because when he pitched in game 2 of this series, it did not go so hot for him right out of the gate. Julio Rodriguez hitting the 3-run home run to get things started. And then you had the Jorge Polanco home run that made it 6-3. It's very interested to see how Savage kind of bounces back from a tough game 2 start. I think Logan Gilbert, to me, I have more confidence in him than I do in Savage going into this game 6.
Yep, Logan Gilbert is the more veteran guy for Savage. Just his 6th career start. That's hard to believe that he's going to be in a do-or-die game for the Toronto Blue Jays, getting his 6th career start, but that's how wacky these playoffs have been. Curtis, you've had an up-close and front-row seat to it all. We are one win away from the Seattle Mariners getting to their first World Series of all time. Unfortunately, we will not have the reunitation of the Mariners and the Brewers in the World Series, but you know what? Certainly rooting you on, my friend. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, we've got a ton of coverage at seattlesports.com as the flagship home of the Mariners. We've got unprecedented access to this ball club as they are marching to their first ever World Series appearance, just one win away. No Mariners team has ever gotten this close before. The 2025 ball club has gotten here. So hoping to cap it off this weekend, whether it be Sunday, whether it be Monday, with a series clincher, a pennant clincher. Seattlesports.com, the YouTube page, Seattle Sports. Look it up there. That's where you want to go for incredible ALCS content. Hoping to turn that into some World Series content here over the next few days. And Greg, always appreciate you having me on, and look forward to our next chat.
Absolutely, and I'm thinking we're going to get another chat with Curtis, because I do think that at some point we're going to be talking about Mariners versus Dodgers. We will see if that happens after a Game 6 or a Game 7, though, as with regards to this series, we've got Game 6 coming up on Sunday. A big thanks to Curtis for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for that big Game 6 as we touch them all.
DC politicians want to enact harmful credit card mandates that could take away your cash back and rewards points. Perks that stretch your budget and make life a little easier. Losing these benefits means less money for your family's everyday essentials like gas and groceries. The perks you rely on could disappear, leaving you with higher costs and fewer options. Tell Congress to guard your card and oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card mandates.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to get Curtis Rogers aboard. He's doing amazing work over at 710 Seattle Sports, doing the pre- and post-game hosting for the Seattle Mariners. Additionally, I know that he's doing a great job with the Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Kraken. Again, anything out there in the Pacific Northwest, he's doing an incredible job of covering it all, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Curtis for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for Game 6 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. Incredibly easy to be able to go in Las Vegas rotation order. We've got one game. So 9:03, 9:04 it is. The Blue Jays play host the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert goes for the M's, and Trey Savage is on the bump for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays between -118 to -126 favorites, +106 to +110. That number on Seattle, 7.5 is the total. Over and under between -105 to -115. I'm actually going to ride with the under in this spot. I did set my total at a 7.3. I recognize that Trey Savage did not have the world's greatest starting game 2. He gives up 5 runs there, and Logan Gilbert, he himself only lasted 3 innings, giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. But with Logan Gilbert, he was pitching very much on short rest. That was pretty much his 3rd time pitching in 8 days because he had to pitch in that Game 5 closeout against the Detroit Tigers. So that made things very wonky and strange overall for the season. If you look at the regular season numbers for Gilbert, 3.44 ERA with 11.9 strikeouts and 2.1 walks per 9 innings. Now, he does have an elevated ERA on the road. On the road for Logan Gilbert, it has been a case where he has been giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. If you look at more of the regular season numbers, that excludes what happened in the postseason. 4.74 ERA, 12 home runs allowed in 62 and 2/3 innings, but he's really been able to buckle down recently. Most of those road struggles came earlier in the season, and for Trey Savage, between the regular season and the playoffs, right around about a 3.85, 3.86 ERA. I had to manually calculate that. He's been able to get, though, 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, has been very rock solid with that regard. The 11 punch-outs that he had against the New York Yankees obviously helped out with that. He is giving up 4+ walks per 9 innings, so length might be a little bit of an issue, but you do have the likes of Uriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, and Brandon Little did come up very little in game number 5, but these are all guys that have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA throughout the season. It is a little bit of a concern for the Blue Jays, the fact that the bullpen has been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, really ever since the second half of the season began, ever since the All-Star break, and the Seattle Mariners do have a little bit of an edge with regards to that bullpen when you're able to throw out there Gabe Spire, Edward Pizarro, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, all these guys that give you a sub-3 ERA. That's rock solid, and the Mariners have been a rock solid offense on the road this year, averaging 5.1 runs per contest. That is in the top 3 in all of baseball. They've had a few guys in terms of moving the line that have been really consistent throughout the regular season, struggle here in the postseason, though. Like, you had Dom Canzone during the regular season hit darn near 300. He's hitting a 0.87 here in the postseason. Randy Arozarena hitting just a $150 here in the postseason. That's been an issue, but the guys that you need to step up have here in the playoffs. Cal Raleigh, 4 home runs with a 435 on base, and Eugenio Suarez had that big grand slam, knocking it for a lot of average, just a 256 on base here in the postseason. And that's getting to Seattle. This includes regular season, hitting below the Mendoza line 200, but you know the power that he's able to yield. You've got Ori Polanco, who's got a trio of bombs here in the postseason as well. J.P. Crawford has had a little bit of a tough time move line, but I do think that it improves a little bit here. But this is a Mariners team that does rank in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of total strikeouts on a per at-bat basis, so that's a little bit of an issue. And for the Blue Jays, this is the number 1 offense in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, with about 5.6 runs per game. George Springer did go out with a injury in game number 5. It appears as though it's just like a little bit of a bruise. We'll see if he's able to give you anything whatsoever. I've handicapped it as if he's probably going to be on the sidelines for this one, but even if he is, you still have plenty of depth even with Anthony Santander out of the fold. Davis Schneider is a very presentable outfielder. Nathan Lucas has been able to do a nice job hitting above 300 here in the postseason. Flagger Jr. just 23 home runs during the regular season, but here in the postseason, 5 bombs at hitting above a 400. Ernie Clement is hitting above a 400 here in the playoffs as well. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk, hit above a 275 during the regular season. Average has been down here in the playoffs, but he's been able to hit 3 home runs as well. Dalton Varsho, between the regular season and the postseason, about a home run every 12 or so at bats. I do think that these two very high strikeout pitchers in Logan Gilbert and Trey Savage are going to be able to give a nice performance. We have seen all but one game here in the series go over the total. I think you see a little bit of reversal of that, but in the end, I do think that the Blue Jays get to a guy in Logan Gilbert who has had his road struggles. I set my total 7.3 on the 7.5. I'm in on the under, and I do like the money line of the Blue Jays. I'm willing to lay up to a -122 there, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Curtis Rogers, who does such amazing work over at 710 Seattle Sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's the naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I am with you guys throughout the MLB playoffs. If there's a game being played in the MLB playoffs that day, I will have a fresh podcast for you. Might take a day or 2 off between the Championship Series and the World Series, but past that, I'll be with you guys every single day until the baseball season wraps up. And of course, for those that are looking for my podcast, Cuz Hoops podcast, that never takes a day off as well. So hard at work for you guys. I appreciate you tuning in today, and I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.